Hello everyone, my name is Marian Guevara. A huge hello and a huge thank you to anyone who is just clicking on this video, or if you're just checking out the channel. Whether you're a new subscriber or an old subscriber, your viewership is always greatly appreciated. And here on this channel we talk about books, movies, and more, and today I'll be focusing on the more portion with the third installment of my sketchbook tour videos. So, for those who don't know, who haven't watched those previous two videos, this is where I take you through a tour of my sketchbook and go over some of my pieces, go in depth on the media that inspired them and the processes that went into making them. And in those previous two sketchbook tour videos, I was focusing on a different sketchbook. It was a artist loft version, and this is obviously a different one. This is much larger, drawing pad, and this one I use for larger pieces, mainly full-bodied character work. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. So my apologies, this first piece is actually a spoiler. It's a spoiler for The Hod King by Josiah Bancroft, which is the third book within the Books of Babel series. So if you haven't read the book or haven't read the series, I will leave a timestamp down below indicating where the spoiler begins and ends. But for those of you who have read this book, who have read the series, you might see the reference here. So here it is, the first piece I have to show you, and it is of Maria the Mermaid. So for those who have read The Hod King, you are familiar with the fact that Maria has been basically kidnapped by the Duke, held against her will. She's been forced to marry him, and he forces her basically to perform for all of Pelphia in these piano concerts. And she's given the stage name, the nickname, Maria the Mermaid. And I thought this was a good way to practice my shading. I have a lot of artist loft markers, so I thought I would practice shading hair, and then also here on the tail I had a lot of greens to play around with, a lot of greens to mix and see what works together. So I thought the tail turned out pretty well. And here on this piece you can see that she's holding this red hat. So in the beginning of Senlin Ascends, Maria is wearing this hat in the belief that, you know, it's very bright and distinctive. Tom will be able to see, recognize, and find her should they get lost. And yeah, a bit ironic, really. There's also a scene at the end of Arm of the Sphinx where the Sphinx tells him that she's seen Maria. She's seen her like reach into a closet for this hat, sort of hold it and look at it wistfully and mournfully. And so I included that scene in this piece. So yes. Now another thing that inspired this was actually a bit of Tom Kidd art. So if you're familiar with the sub-press editions of the Books of Babel, you might be familiar with this. So this is a little paper trinket that you got when you ordered The Hod King, and it's meant to resemble a theater ticket for one of Maria's concerts. So this art here actually inspired this one. So yes, so here's the look of it, the entire thing again. I did include this chair because I thought it would look awkward if she's just sitting on nothing. And yeah, that is the first piece. So for this next piece, this is a fan art of actually two works. So last year in 2024, my favorite reads were Armadale by Wilkie Collins and the Gormenghast trilogy by Mervyn Peake. And funnily enough, my two favorite characters of that year, and they're from each of these works, was Lydia from Armadale and Steerpike from the Gormenghast trilogy. So I found it a bit amusing that my two favorite characters were villains. And so I don't know, I had this urge, this sort of image in my head of the two of them kind of just sitting down and relaxing. Maybe they're conversing. And here you see Steerpike with his pipe, which he does smoke in the books. And here you see Lydia with this bottle, because she's a laudanum user. And funnily enough, Wilkie Collins, the author, was also a laudanum user. So yeah, in this piece, I was practicing, inking, cross-hatching, which I've never really done that much before. This was, like I said, very much just practice work. This was actually a bit stressful, I'm not gonna lie, because You know, it's ink, it's permanent, and if I screw it up, it's just gonna bother me so much. And I had to use references, especially for Lydia, because the folds on the dress were stressing me out. So luckily there is an illustrated version of Armadale, so I was able to get a bit of reference for this position and her dress and everything, and I don't think it turned out that bad. And then Steer Pike was just, while sketching or cross-hatching the dress was difficult, Steer Pike was difficult on another level because he's described in the book as wearing basically just a black suit. You see Mervyn Peake's illustrations, but you don't see in detail what the suit kind of looks like. I just know that it's all black. I did give him pinstripe trousers, and that's just, well, for one thing, I just didn't have confidence in myself to be able to kind of cross-hatch full black trousers. I just didn't have confidence. So I just decided to give him pinstripe trousers. I thought it would help add dimensions to his legs. So yeah, I mean, I was surprised his jacket didn't turn out horribly, but I was not risking it with the pants. So yeah, I also kept the sketch marks because honestly, it does just make the sketch or make this piece look a bit better. I added this table with a candelabra only because there was this big awkward space in the middle that I wanted covered. So yeah, we got a table with a candelabra in it. So yeah, that's basically the story behind this piece. Just wanted to draw some, you know, Lydia and Steer Pike fan art. I don't know, I just find this piece amusing. The two of them just sitting down and him smoking and her taking laudanum. So for this next piece, this is fan art of two characters from the world of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell by Susanna Clarke. I read this big old chunky book in the beginning of the year. Definitely going on my favorites list at the end of this year for sure. So naturally I had to do some fan art. So we have the gentleman with the thistledown hair, who's actually the antagonist of Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell. And then we have this character from the short story collection that takes place in the same world. And this is Mrs. Mab. So both of these are Fae characters, and I just had fun with the fact that I'm drawing Fae characters in Regency clothing. So going over the processes of drawing these two, the gentleman was very difficult. I actually had to go through 3 attempts to get him right. It was just so annoying because I'm not used to drawing men. I find drawing men very difficult, and I was having a hard time with his pose because every time I attempted at drawing him, he just ended up looking so stiff. So one night I was just getting sick of it. I'm gonna tackle this drawing one way or another, and I did something different. So usually when I draw characters, I start top to bottom, but this time I did middle to bottom. I wanted to nail, you know, the look of his legs. I wanted to make sure they look fluid. They didn't look stiff. So I was just sketching the position of the legs, and I thought to myself, hey, this doesn't piss me off. This doesn't look too bad. So I ended up filling in the sketch, and I had a pair of legs that I was actually pleased with. The trouble was now I had to go from waist up, which I don't normally do, but that actually proved to be a bit easier, in fact. So yeah, once I had the entire sketch down, I inked it and was able to fill in the details like the Regency clothing and everything. So yeah. Now the gentleman with the thistledown hair, he doesn't have a name in the story. He has a huge mane of hair that looks like thistle. That's why he's known as the gentleman with the thistledown hair. This is a black and white piece, but if I were to color it, you know, his jacket would be green because that's another distinctive characteristic of this character. And the Fae have distinct sort of like physical characteristics. For instance, like the eyebrows are furried and winged. Their eyes are also spaced a bit far apart, as you can see with Mrs. Mab as well. So yeah, that's how he turned out. And then we have Mrs. Mab herself. So once again, I had to do some like research on some more Regency fashion. I knew that I wanted her to have a turban. Typically older women wore turbans, at least from what I've seen. And you know, she's meant to be Queen Mab. I think it made her look a bit more regal. So the gentleman with the thistle-down hair is like, he's a bit mischievous, I would say. And then Mrs. Mab is meant to be, you know, much more intimidating, I would say. But they're both forces to be reckoned with for sure. So yeah, that's this piece. So actually pretty pleased with how these two turned out. Like I said, it took a lot of attempts, but overall, I think it turned out well. So for the final piece I have here to show you for my sketchbook tour, we have a bit of Senlin Ascends fan art. Yes, I talk about the Books of Babel a lot. I apologize. I mean, I draw what I love, and I love the series, so naturally it's going to show up on the sketchbook. So this was actually inspired by step back art, step back covers. So for those who don't know, like step backs, the cover is cut shorter than the next page, and then when you open it, there's an entire page that's either filled with promotional material or it's art. And I have heard people on BookTube explain that they don't like step backs, that they find them annoying, but I really like step backs, or I like the potential for them. I think one great example of step backs are the reissues of the Lunar Chronicles, because you have beautiful covers, you have beautiful illustrations on the covers, and then when you open it, you have like a full page of brand new art. And so it got me thinking, okay, what if Senlin Ascends had like a step back cover? And this is sort of like my design of the full page illustration you would see when you open the book. I wanted to capture the spirit of the book, you know, Tom's chase to find Maria. I also wanted to capture the hectic pace and the confusion. So here you have Tom running up these steps, ascending basically, and then behind the pillar, you can see a bit of Maria, you know. You see her leg peeking out, you see a bit of her heel. She's always just out of reach for Tom. And then down below, you see some characters that Tom comes across in his journeys. So I thought about adding more of a background, or I don't know, adding a bit more characters, but I thought to myself, it might just make the illustration look a bit cluttered. I don't know. So yeah, that's just my design. I don't know, guys. I'm desperate for new editions of the Books of Babel. I want to see more art, and I'm kind of just left here to languish and just make, you know, illustration designs for myself. So yeah. The stairs were very difficult. I had to use a reference. I am, once again, used to just drawing people rather than architecture or anything like that, buildings or anything like that. So once again, more of practicing. And I also did a bit more shading as well, some cross-hatching, you know, shading. And overall, I think it turned out a-okay. So yeah, that's just my design for Senlin Ascends illustration. So that was my sketchbook tour. Thank you guys for watching. I hope you enjoyed. I do plan on doing more of these in the future whenever I do, you know, just add more art, add more to the sketchbook. So I will update it in the future. But once again, thank you all for watching. If you want to see these pieces up, you know, close, I'll leave my Instagram handle down below, because I do post these on my Instagram. So thank you all for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!